So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra 5G. Yeah, that's a big name right there. 1 year later. This was the top dog flagship prior to the S21 Ultra that came after it with the 100 times zoom, fixing the focus issues from S20 Ultra. But we're here to talk about Note 20 Ultra. When it first came out, I paid well over $1,200 for this device. Now I did do a trade-in, but still, it's still the same value. This phone was $12.99 when it did come out, so this is no cheap phone, and today it's still well over $800. You can find it sometimes on deals, but this phone is not a cheap device. This is a top dog flagship from Samsung. However, there have been rumors that we're not going to see another Note this year. Hopefully we do see one soon, because the Note series is definitely a beloved series. However, it's a little more niche than the S line of devices, but I'm going to discuss with you how this phone has really held up over the time using. I did go with the bronze color. Definitely some people's taste, some people not a fan, but there are multiple colors you can get in this, such as the black, the white, as well as this color right here. So it really comes down to that. So not the most color choices, but there's a few. All right, guys, so 1 year later with the body and the build. So this phone was never the lightest at 208 grams. Some people do like the weight of that though. Now when you take a look at the sides of the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, you'll notice that the back glass kind of matches the front glass, the way it curves. So it always gave it a very premium look, in my opinion. Right there, kind of how it spills over the edge there, and on the front it kind of spills the same way, making it a very symmetrical look here on the edges. Also, I really like how they went with this frosted texture on the rear of this phone, but also giving it glass, so it's kind of that matte feel. It doesn't really pick up fingerprints, anything like that. Victus on the front and back of this phone, giving you really top-notch security when it comes to drop protection. However, I do recommend screen protectors if you want the ultimate drop protection. Around the edges, you do have a stainless steel like frame on here, so definitely very nice for the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra here. Very overall square though, so if you're not into the square body, you might not prefer this. But 1 year later, I gotta say, I kind of got annoyed with the squared after a while. Like, I really do like it for note taking, but sometimes this kind of just feels uncomfortable for long periods with one hand. However, you know, some people will still really enjoy it if you're watching movies. It did give you more space to spread out, because the curved S line, the screens look a little bit smaller than the Note just because of the way they are shaped. Like, this square does give it a very big TV-like feel in your hand. So if you're looking for the biggest kind of screen, that will help. But this also has IP68 dust and water resistance, and I had this little screen protector on there, a little dust got in there, but in terms of the actual screen itself, no dust or water has ever penetrated this phone, so its overall build has held up incredibly well during my time using it. So don't worry too much on durability. This is a very tough device overall, but I still would recommend putting in a case. The cases I used mostly was this S-View flip cover for the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. It was designed perfectly for this. It's a little more pink than I would like, but yeah, that looked pretty clean in there. And then I could see the clock right there. And then I was using the Galaxy, or this kickstand case from ESR. I will put a link to this down below in the description, but I use this clear case because you could prop it up like this and kind of have a little stand action going. And then if you have it in landscape mode, you got yourself a little tablet right there. You can watch some movies, some videos, stuff like that. So that's kind of how I protected it. Okay, so let's talk about the display. This is a dynamic AMOLED 2X display. If you don't know what that means, it's basically a more accurate, not as oversaturated as the prior Super AMOLED displays from Samsung, but you're also getting the adaptive rate. Now, one thing I didn't like about this display is you could only use the 120 Hertz and 1080. I didn't really like that because this is such a large 6.9 inch panel that you can kind of tell the difference between 2K on such a large display. It's not so noticeable on smaller displays, but on this phone, you can definitely tell the difference between the WQHD and the full HD. So if you want to use WQHD, you do have to go back down to 60 Hertz, which I do not like because it's definitely nowhere near as snappy as the 120 Hertz, and that's where the S21 Ultra improved over this phone. However, at least it still does have that, you know, WQHD mode right there. But I will put it back here for improved visuals. We'll change this motion smoothness back to adaptive. Other than that, you do have very nice visibility enhancements you can do on this phone. You have video enhancer, like they can really brighten this thing up. So let's go here. I think they call it video brightness now, actually. Let's go to video brightness. So you can make this brighter in certain things depending on the app you want to use it in. So Prime Video, ESPN, YouTube, stuff like that. But 1 year later, I just loved how large this screen was. 6.9 inches. That's bigger than the S21 Ultra by 0.1 inch. But hey, I'll take any 0.1, 0.2. I like to say I got the biggest screen on a phone. And this one definitely has that. At 496 ppi in the WQHD mode, it's definitely one of the sharpest out there. All right, so taking a look at some text right here. Another thing I really liked about the Note 20 Ultra's display is its aspect ratio. So this aspect ratio on here is a little bit more wider than some of the S21 lines, so it kind of gives you a little bit more of a comfortable spread out reading experience here on this phone. The S Pen also is a great tool to kind of swipe through things, pinch to zoom, very smooth on this display, and text is just easy to make out on this panel. So basically overall, there's nothing really to complain about. It's got Gorilla Glass Victus, it's 120 Hz, it's got HDR10 plus support on the display, it goes into landscape. The only thing is you can't use 120 Hz, which is definitely an area of improvement Samsung can make on the next Note line. But yeah, you can see the wallpaper super vivid, everything very vivid, and I think you still really will love the display. It's still top notch. All right, so discussing the software, this is the One UI 3 I've been using on this phone since it came out. Basically, Android 11, Android 12 is coming to this device. I will say I do like all the features that come with it. You got the eye comfort shield that came over from the Galaxy S21 line. Lots of modes you can tweak around and play with in here, so you're never going to be left for wanting features. You got Samsung Dex right there. They do combine their Galaxy theme store with the Galaxy applications, along with, you know, different icons you can change. AOD mode, so always on display modes, also you can change out. So lots of customization, really does take it a step above, you know, iPhone for some people. Now going through, you know, the app drawer, you can see it's very well laid out. If you go here, you can sort this by your custom orders or alphabetical. Within the settings menu itself, there's a ton more of advanced features on here. So if I go down here, you'll see, actually it's a little bit further up maybe, no, it's right there. So you'll see a ton more advanced features, but some of the main features you'll want to know about here is the S Pen features, because even on the S21 Ultra, you don't get some of the value add-ons that the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra gives you. And one of the best things is that it goes right into the body itself. But if you take a look, so if you take a look here in the camera, you can go ahead and take a picture, record video, you can switch cameras, stuff like that. So there's even more you can do in some of these other ones, like on the internet. You can go ahead and go back, you can go forward. So there's more feature set here with the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra versus the S21 Ultra when it comes to its software with the S Pen. The S21 Ultra does get a lot of these right here, but you can stick it right back in the phone. You don't need a bulky case with this one. So overall, the S Pen experience, the S Pen is better, I think, on the S21 Ultra because it's longer, but this S Pen feature set is better. So you kind of can't have it all. You got to have one or the other depending on what matters more to you. On the whole, the software far improved over Samsung of yesteryear. It's not super over difficult to learn, anything like that. You still have a lot of the features you love from Samsung, but it doesn't look quite as messy as it used to look back in the day. But almost everything you can think of is on this phone. You have split view modes right here. They brought back the ability to kind of switch between them. So they used to got rid of this, but they brought it back here. So you can definitely do this again, really like that. You can get a ton of customization going on. Over here, you do have the edge screens, even more applications to switch between. I mean, anything you think of, man, the software is kind of there for you on this Galaxy Note 21 Ultra. Anything you can kind of think of you need to use, like if you're thinking, does this phone have that feature? There's a high chance, high probability that if you thought of something that you need to do on the phone that you didn't previously know it could do, it probably has it. Okay, so what about the performance? Now, this phone doesn't have the Snapdragon 888, but it does have the Snapdragon 865 Plus, which was a pretty good CPU in and of itself. Now, some people always recommend against getting the Exynos models of these phones, but I have the Snapdragon version here, and let me tell you, it's been pretty darn good on this phone. So really not bad whatsoever on this device when you are rocking out the phone for performance aspects. I mean, everything works how you would expect with that 120 Hertz. It's really hard to tell the difference between this and the S21 line, even though the S21 line has a Snapdragon 888. Very happy with the performance. You can get this thing up to 12 gigabytes of RAM or 8 gigabytes of RAM, depending on the model that you go with. So I will say there's one very big advantage of the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, even 1 year later, and that is that Samsung is not really doing this anymore, giving you SD card expansion on their premium latest flagships, which is annoying because I love this. I love buying these cheap little micro SD cards and expanding the storage on my jumbo-sized Samsung phone. However, now the A series line, the cheap line of phones, are the ones getting the expandable memory, and we have to pay extra on the S21 Ultra to get, you know, extra memory. Not really liking that whatsoever, and I really hope they don't go away from that with the Note line. I have this weird feeling that they're going to, but at the same time, 1 year later, I'm giving this one a major win in the storage, because you're just not going to run out if you have that expandable memory. This is not the highest tier of storage, but I did have my expandable, so I didn't care. But I have an SD card. With my S21 Ultra, I'm already 55% through that, and I'm not liking that I don't have a way to expand it. So 1 year later, thumbs up here on storage. All right, guys, so let's talk about the cameras with this phone. So this has a 108 megapixel camera on board, and it's loaded with the features. It can go 50x on the zoom. You can see that right there. It has the ultra wide. It also can do 4K video at up to 60. This might be able to do, yeah, this can do 8K as well. I was pretty sure it could do, I just wanted to double check. But this can do 8K video as well at 24 FPS. So this thing is loaded with the video. When you flip it around to the front, this can do 4K at 60 on the front as well. So this is a boss in the camera. And then they brought some new features here in updates. So you have dual recording now. This didn't have it when it first came out, but you can do dual recording with both the front and the rear camera on this phone. Pretty cool. And if you need more pro features, you have Pro Camera, Pro Video, which they brought as well to the Note line, finally brought it back. They used to have that only on, I think they had it only on the S21 Ultra first. They brought it over here to the Galaxy Note line. So definitely you can get your Pro Video on. And that's important because this one really brought better focus over the S20 Ultra, which had terrible focus problems. But I gotta say, the camera really strong, but I'm not just gonna talk about it. Instead of me talking about it, you kind of know what it is by now if you've never seen a Note line. It's basically a boss setup. I mean, look at the size of this bump. Look at this camera bump. You know, when your camera looks like that, you're gonna have a boss camera phone. So let me show you some photo samples I took with this phone, and you can decide for yourself if this is for you. And then discussing battery life for this device, 4,500 milliamp hour battery. I was hoping Samsung would stuff a 5,000 in here. So when I seen the 4,500 and I had a 5,000 in my S20 Ultra, I'm like, is this gonna last? But the thing is it did last. It gets through a full day, and that's pretty much what you need. However, I will say it's not overly impressive. So you would think with such a big phone, you would have such long battery life. not necessarily the case. The Note 20 Ultra is just about average. It gets through a day like most phones that are even smaller than this. So don't expect anything crazy in battery life. I've averaged around 5 hours of screen time, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, depending on the way I have the settings tweaked. That means display brightness, if I'm using Wi-Fi all day, if I'm using camera all day. Things do vary when it comes to the battery life, but I will say that 25-watt fast charging in here is also not the quickest anymore, but it's not horrible. It does charge pretty quick on a 25-watt, and it does have wireless charging, fast wireless charging have you, so that's a very good thing as well. Overall, I would say it's about average in battery for this type of size of a phone. And a couple other things before we go. The Note 20 Ultra came in the height of the pandemic, so this phone right here really was kind of a really good savior with that fingerprint and display. And during the time this launched, a lot of us were in lockdown. Some people are still in lockdown, but a lot of us were in lockdown, and we had such a nice phone, a nice big device here to use in the Note 20 Ultra. And it also had decks you can bring up to your computer. No issues with wearing masks because you had this great fingerprint sensor. And Samsung's fingerprint sensors are across the Galaxy line, but I gotta tell you, they seem to perform better on these more premium phones like the Note 20 Ultra, the S21 Ultra. These phones just have really good in-display fingerprints. You don't even have to have the screen unlocked if you know where that is at. So you can see right there, works fantastic. Now, I also will say that this phone is fantastic in mobile performance as well. It does very good with phone call quality and mobile strength when it comes to holding on the signal when you're out and about. Other than that, that's about it with the Note 20 Ultra 5G 1 year later. You can see I'm overall pretty positive because there's not a lot bad about this phone. My only gripe with it is simply the 120 Hertz display not being able to go into WQHD. It just seems like there's everything, this phone ticks every single box, but one little small thing that it didn't give me was the sharper display on the smoother panel, and I just didn't like that. I mean, the S20 Ultra did that as well, but so did this one, and it's just makes the S21 Ultra have a step over this phone, because I don't want to go in 60 Hertz after seeing 120 Hertz on this device. I just don't want to do it. So that makes it really tough for me to use this over the S21 Ultra, but that might not matter to some of you. So if you had the Note 20 Ultra and you've had it for about a year when it came out, or you've had it for a little bit shorter time, share your experience with the community. It can help people decide if this is something they want to buy used now or cheaper, or they've seen this Note 20 Ultra on a deal and they might want to pick one up. Let them know down below. It could help them out. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to comment what you want to see down below. And if you found this video helpful, you might also find this one enjoyable. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.